Hello again guys, today I'm going to be demonstrating the process of making and setting up a baited spring net trap. A few of the bonuses to this trap is that it's a baited trap. Rather than having to set it on a trail like you would a regular snare or a spring snare, you can draw the critter in with your bait and bring them to where you want them. To build a net trap we're going to need a net. Now you might have one lying round that you could practice with. If you're looking at this as a survival type trap, the chances are you wouldn't have any netting on you in a survival situation either. So what I'm going to do is show you my really easy process of making nets. When it comes to cordage or material that you use to make your net, you can use anything that knots well. In a worst case scenario, when you haven't got any suitable cordage, there's plenty of natural materials and plant fibres that you can twist into a cordage. I don't want to go too off track with the video, and I think that cordage making is a skill on its own, but something well worth learning. So for the demonstration, I'm just going to be using a jute twine to make my net. Now I want a 60 by 60 centimetre net, and to work out my drop length, okay, and you've got to bear in mind that if I put a 60 centimetre drop length, as we start to tie the net up, it's going to reduce the length of that cordage, okay? So it's slightly hard to explain, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my drop lengths at about 80-90 centimetres each. So I'm going to be folding a 160 centimetre piece of cordage and tying that onto the ridge line. Probably done mine too long, but I'd rather have them too long than too short. My drops are about 80 centimetres, doubled up, that's 160 centimetres per drop. It's a lot of cordage, and that's why I didn't really want to make them out of nettles. To add each drop, you want to find the centre of the cord and fold it in half. Put the hoop behind the main cord, and then with the other end, pop it through the hoop. Pull it through. And what we'll get is like a slip knot. That's what we want. Okay, we're going to do that again. Find the centre, behind the main cord, and pop it through the loop and pull it tight. I've marked out the two ends, are about 60 centimetres apart. I want about a 5 centimetre gap, which is about 2 inches in between each drop. This is going to determine the diamond shaped hole in your net. You can make them smaller, bigger, it's up to you, and really just depends on what you're using your net for. Using the two end drops on each side of the net, I've tied a small rock. This is going to help keep the shape and the form of the net and keep everything square. Okay, we're going to tie our first row. If we've got a 2 inch here, 2 inch gap, we want to take about 2 inch down, take the two inner cords, the strands, 2 inch down, at about an inch up, halfway, you want to pinch it. We're not tying anything fancy, we're just doing a granny knot. I want to tie it round in a hoop and push it through the hoop. I'll do the next one a little bit closer, but it is just a granny knot. And just work it up into position. So about an inch down, we're going to pinch it into a triangle, we're going to make a hoop, and then we're just going to put the other end through that hoop and pull it through. You want to try and get all your knots in line. Now it's not a work of art, as long as it's strong, it doesn't really matter, but you want to try and keep it nice and square. Now we're on to the second row. Once we've done the second row, we just repeat the same process all the way down to the bottom of the net. And what we do, take the end cord, spin it around the actual cord, make a hoop, and then just push the other end through the hoop. Again, it's kind of just like another granny knot. That bit of a funny angle. There we go. And just cinch it on in place. Then we get the next two cords, just like the first row, pinch them together, make a hoop, push the end through the hoop, pull it through. So we're going to take the next two, cinch them together, make a hoop, and put the end through. Again, just try and keep your knots in the line. And again, when you get to the other side, wrap it around and pop it through the loop. What I like to do is on each corner of the net, is just tie an extra knot. Once we've trimmed off the edges, we've got a nice solid net. Right guys, that's the net finished. Now let's quickly go through the parts. Normally when I'm setting any kind of trap up, I wear a decent pair of fitted gloves when I'm handling the parts of the trap. Humans are predators and we smell like predators. The oils off our hands can be transferred onto the trap, and this can potentially put off skitty prey animals like rabbits. If you haven't got gloves or you don't like to work in gloves, I'd suggest rubbing your hands in the dirt or washing your hands in the smoke of the fire. At minimum, just rubbing the trap parts into the dirt before setting them. Anything that will just take that scent off. The first parts of the traps that you'll need are going to be the two support pegs. You'll need to find branches with this type of configuration on them. My pegs are about 50-60 centimetres long, and spiked at one end and tapered at the other. The next part is what I'm calling the support stick. This needs to be strong as it's holding the weight of the spring, and this is going to be attached onto your pegs like this. We've got the trigger toggle. I've beaver cut around about a quarter of the way down on each end. This is where the cord's going to go from here to your spring, and then your net can attach onto here. This is a trigger stick. This is the part that can hold the bait, and it runs straight across the length of your trap. It's best to cut it longer and then trim it to the right size when you're setting up the trap. Then we've got the trigger peg. This is going to be driven into the ground opposite the two support pegs. It's been tapered at one end and then spiked at the other. That's all the parts. What I'll do now is quickly take you through the setup and then we'll test it out. I'm going to hammer these two support pegs at about 25 centimetres apart. That's about 10 inches. Now I'm going to bind my support stick to the two pegs. I'm going to hammer in the trigger peg central to the support stick and about 25 centimetres away from the sticks itself. Before I bind my spring and my net to my trigger toggle, I'm going to put the toggle behind the support stick and I'm just going to measure out the trigger stick. I've rounded off both ends of the trigger stick. This smoothness and the round and round will make a real sensitive hair trigger. When it comes to attaching your net to your trigger toggle, whenever you see in trapping books, net type traps, they're always attached a cord to each one of the corners and then to a central. And when the trap triggers, it lifts the animal up like this. Now I think this is a terrible way to string up your net because it leaves a big hole in each corner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a better way of stringing up your net. Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get my cord, I'm going to put it through one of the hoops, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to weave the cord in and out the hoops all around the edge of the net and then back out the same point. Take the bit that we've just put through and we're just going to tie another granny knot, make a hoop. I'm just going to tie a loop on the end. Okay, just like if you were doing a snare. And then we can put the other end of the cord, which is going to be attached to the trigger toggle, through there like that. Okay, so if I rabbit or whatever animal that we're trying to trap is in there and it triggers, it's going to be completely enclosed inside the net. I've tied the net to the bottom of the trigger toggle and up at the top I've tied the cord that's going to our spring. I've got 4 different examples of ways that we can power our trap. The first is probably my least favourite, but it's to cut a sapling or a flexible branch, spike it on one end, pushing it into the ground, and then we can bend that straight over to our trap. They work as good springs. I like this because you can put them anywhere. You don't have to put the trap somewhere where there's already an existing spring. The downfall to it is that after 2 or 3 days, the wood, because we've cut it, is going to dry in this position. Okay, so when it does trigger, it will lose a lot of its spring. The next option would be to use a live sapling. It's going to keep that flex and it's rooted. So it's a good option. You can use a limb off an overhanging tree. And the 4th option isn't a spring, but you could use some type of rock pulley. This one's using the same mechanism as a seesaw trap that I did a video on about 3 years ago. The trigger toggle goes at the back of the post and then the cordage goes up and over. This way it'll pull the net up this way rather than dragging it underneath the post. Just to prevent a few people from losing an eyeball, when you are arming the trap, or once you've armed it, you don't want to be leaning over the trap. You know, if this thing accidentally goes off and it hits you in the face, it could cause some really serious damage. So please take care, guys. This is a baited trap, and if I was setting it for reel, I'd be adding the bait to the actual trigger stick itself, okay? And what will happen is the animal will come onto the exact spot that where you want it, which is directly in the middle of your net, and it's going to have no choice but to touch this stick. It's quite a sensitive trap, so it's not going to take much to trigger it. Now, when it comes to bait choices, it all depends on the animal or the bird that you're trapping. My penny's worth of advice is to offer the critter something better than what they have in abundance around them. When setting this trap for reel, I recommend putting a thin layer of leaf litter over the net itself, and to prevent the critter from entering the trap from the back and triggering the trap before it's even on the net, to build a funnel like I have here. Now, the animal or the bird can only enter the trap from the side to the front rather than coming in through the back and knocking the trigger peg before it's even onto the net. I've practiced and used dozens of primitive and survival type traps over the years, and in my opinion lots of them are too complicated or just impractical. But this trap on the other hand is an excellent trap in design. It's easy to make. When it's set correctly in the right spot, it would definitely put meat in the pot. Okay guys, thanks for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Take care, be safe, and I'll see you next time.